Launch now the NDC 2024 manifesto. This is your election headquarters and is brought to you by Petrosol Platinum Energy, Energizing Dreams, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, Chopbox Technologies, a convenient service, and Youth Break Foundation, bridging the gap for positive youth development. And there we have it. The manifesto is duly launched. A few very interesting proposals in there. Yes. You were already talking about one of them that stood out for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about, I was talking about the national health insurance, the uncapping, but I was talking about the 24-hour economy. And I said that, you know, the fact that with Mohammed's explanation, you get, I mean, look at it, this is like the best explanation I've heard about the 24-hour economy. Of course, it's his idea, so you'd expect him to be able to explain it. But again, I was saying that, look, let's look at it. So when you're providing services, for instance, you must ask yourself the simple question. Okay, if I want to go 24-hour, is there a demand for it? Because you just don't employ people who get into the work, and at the end of it all, you don't even get the funds, and that becomes a liability to the state. So yes, of course, the state doesn't have to look at making profit necessarily. The state must look at public service delivery, but the state must also ensure that it doesn't bring on more people onto the wage bill when it could have actually done with what it currently has. So we need to look at that. In principle, it's not a bad thing, but you must do the needs, I mean, the assessment properly. Is there a demand for this service? So when it comes to DVLA, for instance, you're asking yourself, how many people go to DVLA in a day? If we decide to run a 24-hour service, how many people would go there? The number of people who go to DVLA in a day, will they be better served if we had more centers? That's a question you can ask yourself. Yeah. Would they be better served if we had more centers? If you look at the passport office, for instance, would they be better served if we, decentralized passport application services? These are questions we need to ask ourselves, because like I've always insisted. And will people be better served if we stop segregating the services into premium, specialized, rich people services, then we dedicate people consistently for it within a short period, then the rest of us will have to now go and fight for long queues, almost as if without more money, you cannot get proper service or convenient service from the state. Sure. I hope you get my point. Yeah. So it's not only about extending the time, it's also about what you're doing with your current system. Exactly. Is it better off to isolate and give privileged services to a few and say because they are paying more, they can actually get a privileged service? Or extend it to everybody so that those who are paying more will all pay the same amount of money, but it's fast enough. But the 24 hours economy will definitely expand access to everything. Yeah, I'm not saying it's fundamental to that I get your policy. Point, but I'm saying you review inefficiencies in the system to not necessarily. I need to go back to the ground because my colleague, Brother Soga, is standing by with the former finance minister, Seth Tekbe. Anything. Can you hear it? No, but the thing you're playing, is it on air? Is that audio? Is that audio? But we can't hear it here. The studio has no, I can't hear.
For them, dead numbers, he gave infrastructure numbers, infrastructure projects and things to support them. That's the first part. Then the second part is the dissecting the document itself with respect to what we plan, to do. A number of revenue measures are being scrapped off. Is that sustainable for the NDC, knowing that we're running an IMF, a program with the International Monetary Fund? You are a former finance minister. Is that sustainable? May I remind the media, and I knew this was coming, may I remind the media that we were in an IMF program preparing 2013, 2014, and the ECF 2015. We were in a fund program when we did most of the infrastructure projects. The IMF is not against you mobilizing and managing effectively, right, So if you recall, Terminal 3, the harbor, and all those loans were acquired through our self-financing or smart borrowing, strategies.
You're talking quite a significant one, the e-levy, for instance.
Don't forget
how will you plug the holes? How will you plug the revenue holes?
Well, he spoke about rationalization. And don't forget that we inherited the single spine, which was quite significant, initially through borrowing, and then we had the negotiations with labor. You heard him talk about, the consultations. Don't forget that we also experienced the damage of the pipeline from Nigeria, which resulted in Dumso, right? And for which we had to adjust strategies, and we ended with excess, power, which should have been a blessing, was made to look like a curse. Right. So we are not saying that, it's going to be easy, as he said, but it takes dedication, because simply because you are in a fund program, that doesn't mean that you should come to a standstill, right? And so that's the point we're making.
You don't have a clear picture of what the situation is.
And let me make the last point. Don't also forget that we had these difficulties. We were in a fund program when we launched the progressively fee-free education and built, the e-schools. And as was said, we were honest with Ghanaians. Once crude oil prices fell and it was going to be difficult, we squared with Ghanaians and said we were not going to, finish them. And remember that promises are not fulfilled in a year. We are talking about 4 years, and hopefully, another 4 years.
Since you're talking about 4 years, is 4 years enough? Is 4 years enough for you to transform this?
Of course, but we are a government which believes in even pipeline projects left by other governments. How much more the ones that will follow another 4 years should we come to power? We believe, remember there were big projects, the Big Six and the rest from the Kufuor administration, which under Professor Mills we mobilized to complete. You remember the Big Six road projects and others? No, we are not going to abandon, promises just because we're going into another year. And that's why I mentioned the fact that we began by showing the experience that we had. Whether you're talking about slowdown in the economy, whether you're talking about, IMF program, whether you're talking about the need to negotiate and let labor and others understand. So the blueprint is there.
Grateful, and that's Seth Acquah, who's the, of course, former finance minister, giving us a sense of how the NDC intends to turn things around. Let's speak to one man who's also been in the thick of affairs, controlling affairs, to get to where the NDC is now. Alex Modison join you. Thank you so much, sir, and it's great to be speaking to you again.
Thank you very much.
Your impression about today's event?
It was electrifying and beyond expectation. And I think our flag bearer, His Excellency John Mahama, has set the pace. He's made it very clear exactly what he's going to do. He's made it exactly clear what the people of the country are looking for. We all know that the last 8 years has been tough for everybody in the country. The country has been raped. There's a lot of state capture. But his commitment is that in the first 120 days, he is going to ensure that he prioritizes all his commitments. He has made it very clear that, yes, their challenges are huge. He's going to rationalize spending. He's going to make sure that he doesn't have a large government. He's going to rationalize all the SOEs, state organizations that are weak and are plummeting the treasury of this country. He's going to ensure that we rationalize them and start making them possible. What he has done is very clear. We've gone around, the manifesto team went around and discussed with many people, many sectors, think tanks, to come up with exactly what is important to fix. We have not promising the moon, but we're promised that we will get things back on track.
You come from the central region, so we are in the central region, I meant to say, but then you know that this will be a swing place, a very decisive place for the elections in 2024. How do you see that feeding into, the whole grassroots mobilization of the NDC. Some say that your presidential votes appear to be retrogressing over the years as compared to your parliamentary votes, which is the analysis that some have made about your fortunes going into the 2024 elections. Are you worried about that, and how do you intend to show up the numbers?
We are not worried about it at all. What we are worried about is the blatant cheating that is going to go on in the Ashanti region by the NPP, and we are going to ensure that we have the right people at all the polling stations to stop the cheating that goes on. Ashanti region is crucial for the NDC, and we have taken all steps to ensure that it is not going to happen in 2024. The blatant cheating, stuffing of ballots, and intimidating our people not to come out to vote is not going to happen. Yes, Central region is a swing region, and we are going to take at least 20 of the seats here. We are also going to have a majority for our presidential candidate in the Central region. But the battle is going to be fought in the Ashanti region, and that is where the focus is going to be. Ashanti region gave the NPP 1.147 million votes above the NDC. We are committed to bring it down to less than 800,000 votes, and as such, we are sure by doing that we will win this election.
What message are you selling to the Ashanti region, since you're talking about the Ashanti region? Because that seems to be the stronghold of the NPP. What message are you selling to the people of the Ashanti region to, you know, turn around the fortunes?
The Ashanti region don't need any new message. They know we build more infrastructure in Ashanti region, and we care about Ashanti region just like we care about Greater Accra, and we care about the Volta region and other regions of this country. There is no one region that the NDC, unlike the NPP, emphasizes and puts infrastructure in. So the message to the Ashanti region is, yes, we will do what is important for the Ashanti region. We are in touch with the chiefs, we are in touch with the people, and we know their deficiencies. Their roads are bad. It's a food belt of this country. It's also the gold belt of this country, and we will ensure that we build infrastructure to ensure that most of them will be educated by having more schools and hospitals and other things that they need that has not been given to them by this NPP government.
Finally, the issue about peace. We all want a peaceful election. The NDC is being criticized for not necessarily signing onto
the NDC has made it very clear. We are a peaceful party. However, if the NPP intimidate our people, we will meet them boot for boot. We will not allow them to intimidate us. And that is the message we are giving to the NPP. So we are for peace, but we will not be kowtowed, and we will not be looked down by any person in this country. Everybody in this country is equal. So we will not allow the NPP to use the security forces or use anybody to intimidate our people. And if that means we are not peaceful, then we are not peaceful.
Indeed. Alex, thank you. Thank you.
The venue there, waiting for some addresses. And by the way, anytime they go for these events, there is a party atmosphere once it ends, and you can expect that the party itself will have plans to entertain people all night in the central region.
I miss these events. In those days when we used to cover these, it was fun because after everything.
It's the thing about I don't know.
It's not, you are not completing the statement. So I miss these events. Those when we used to cover the events, it was fun because after everything,
it was fun.
After everything, it was so fun.
I did not get it.
Okay.
No.
So let me complete.
Yes.
This is where you hear a lot of the things you normally wouldn't hear on radio and television.
True. You meet
people who tell things that you never get to hear on radio and television.
Or
That's
even give you perspectives.
Perspectives that you don't hear. Or some will be very truthful to you and say, I disagree with this position. I think this is a game changer. This is not. So it's fun when you are at these events, particularly for the kind of work we do. That's what I meant. But I didn't want to say that initially.
Raymond, what were your standout policies?
First, the clarification. I pointed out that contrary to the position that has been held consistently, in the Mahama Key Policies brochure, the point 4 under the economy says we shall abolish the obnoxious e-levy and review the levy imposed on bet winners. If you look at the 2024 manifesto, there are abridged 1. So 2 documents were shared, the Key Policies brochure and the abridged 1. it states categorically in one, we will scrap the following draconian taxes within our first 100 days in office to alleviate hardship and ease the high cost of doing business. E-levy is number 1, COVID levy is number 2, 10% levy on bet winnings is number 3. So this, one would presume that this is the position they want to communicate. So there's no difficulty with review and all of the other things that come along that. It is the scrapping of these levies. It's interesting. They also add the emission levy. They talk about import duty on vehicles and equipment imported into the country for industrial and agricultural purposes. They would also scrap any form of import duty on that. I also see now a bit of an attempt to go into specifically what they will do to ease hardships. And they list that, about 8 or so. Then it comes to the sub-road one that we have been talking about, Winston. On top of it, they deal with the price stabilization. They also talk about rationalizing fees and charges at our ports to reduce the burden on importers and Ghanaians, and they take a comprehensive review of VAT regime to provide relief for households and businesses. Of course, this will include, they mentioned, reversing the decoupling of Get Fund and NHIL from VAT. I suspected that Bamia had hinted at something like that.
He did.
Yeah. Reversing VAT flat rate regime and also upwardly adjusting the VAT registration threshold to exempt micro and small businesses and repealing the law imposing VAT on domestic electricity consumption. That's also here.
And that is the same as Baumia.
Brilliant. So I saw those ones, and it appeared we are going into 2024, 2025. There appears to be consensus that some taxes, at least among the main players, that some taxes must go.
I guess from the way I put it, the consensus around the need for tax reform.
Brilliant.
They differ in the specifics, but even there you find some.
On those ones, but
broadly,
generally, there's the thinking that in fact, I was told by the Deputy Minister of Finance not long ago that they themselves are reviewing the taxes, the regime. In fact, they are currently carrying out the act with the hope that in the future they'll get it clarified. And there's no academic fee policy for first years this year. Then one other thing that we have not stressed is also the NPP is also promising, did I say the NPP?
The NDC?
The NDC. Free tertiary education for persons with disability.
They've said that in their youth manifesto.
Yes. Free primary health care. And that's one word.
Pause, I think that is a significant one. I've just been
a new, interesting perspective.
I've just been chatting with Kwame Sapasiri, and I mentioned his name because he was with me on PMS when we did the health manifesto and laid the sort of the framework within which all the manifestos must sit if they want to be responsive in addressing the real challenges within the health sector. One of the things that he mentioned is in delivering on the global target of universal health coverage, a country must necessarily have in place free primary health care. You have it in the UK, in Canada, etc. Now, that is what the NDC is proposing to do. The challenge with what they've done, though, is they need to specify and break it down. When they say free primary health care, what exactly do they mean? Are they covering all illness and conditions across the board? Because it appears I hear John Mahama talk about only CHIPS compound.
To polyclinics.
To polyclinics.
Yeah. So CHIPS compound, health centers, polyclinics, that's what you have it. But you see, Evans, I just want to make a quick point because we don't have a lot of time.
And then, of course, the cost factor, how are you going to fund it?
That's the point I'm going to make. But this is it. Why did the NPP, after promising the abolishing of a lot of taxes, turn around to begin the imposition of more taxes and engage in this crafty or this, I call it cunning way of saying, VAT, 12.5%, get fund. So you calculate that before you come and calculate the VAT. An attempt to increase the base for the calculation of VAT. You get what I mean? Why do they do that? It is because when you make too many promises, when your expenditure becomes very high, at a point you need to take a second look at everything and say, where am I going to get the money from?
How do you fund it?
It is the reason I ask this question consistently. What is the cost of these promises to the Ghanaian economy? We've seen other promises. We've seen we're going to do free this, free that. Again, I don't have a problem with the provision of sanitary pads for those who cannot afford. Because it saddens my heart that a girl will not go to school because of, the fact that she's a girl. Just because she's a girl, she has to go through that phase. And because she doesn't have money, she can't go to school. I cannot in my world believe this is what is happening in this country. So I am all for it. But again, if I had a daughter who was in school, that girl can afford it because I should be able to provide for her. Again, as has always been my principle, you do not provide things that I can afford for me. Those who need it the most, give it to them. Get those savings and put it in other sectors of the economy. Having said that, though, let me say this quickly. Let me say this before, because our time is up. Jane Nano Pokwajima.
Hey, you have said too quickly so far.
We saw her at UPSA when she was being outdoored. We're on the same platform, and we said brilliant performance. Evans and Raymond, my lecture from many years ago, her performance today was not the best. In fact, it was good John Mahama came to complete.
To end on a high
came to
note.
conclude and came to end on a high note. Her handlers would have to work on her again. Because this looked like I was in an English literature lecture room.
It was quite boring, to be fair.
And this is a campaign platform. So whoever worked on her during her outdooring should go back and work on her because this was a no.
I want to be seeing more of what she did previously.
Yeah.
I mean, see, it's important because we tend to think that she plays very little role in the campaigning. Some of these things endorses that thinking. So it is important that she's felt and she's seen on the ground. In the coming days, we will have the opportunity to break down and demand for better and further and better particulars because there's more free, more interesting, more engaging things within this particular document. And if we get the full document, perhaps we should be able to, because of course, this one's also an abridged version. So we need a full document to be able to, get to understand it fully.
Another one that struck me, and Winston, you asked that question when John Mahama say that he would restore the licenses of wrongfully terminated or collapsed financial institutions. So today, if you read the abridged version, it appears that will be informed by a certain forensic audit. They'll do the forensic audit first before they now go to decide which of them, in terms of the licenses that were withdrawn, were wrongfully done.
So the forensic audit does not point out any...
Then we'll see. But at least now they've clarified that it must be a forensic audit that will be done into that. That is the NDC's manifesto. Last week we had the MPP's manifesto. Now we have the two manifestos. And going into tomorrow, in the lead up to the 2024 elections, we'll launch our manifesto tracker. Winston and his team of researchers will be poring over that, digesting and unpacking all of that for us to make sense of it all. One of the fundamental things we'll be doing on your election headquarters is answering the question, are these manifestos responsive to your real needs and how are the parties planning to fund it? And that funding question is so fundamental because the fiscal space isn't there. It's not there for NDC. It's not there for the MPP, especially in 2025. And so we must test these manifestos, benchmarking it against these very important issues around funding. Where are they going to get the funding to make this happen? And so you'll be informed before you cast that ballot on December 7. This is your election headquarters. It's always brought to you by Petrosol Platinum Energy, Energizing Dreams, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, Chopbox Technologies, a convenience service, and Youth Braid Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development. Enjoy the rest of your day.